Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here today to share with you my birth story for Freddie. He's 4 months now, so it's taken me a little while to sit down and film this video, but it's something that I really wanted to share because I myself love watching birth stories and labour stories. I think mainly because they're all so different and everyone has their own story. I don't know, they're all just so different. I'm always intrigued by them. If you're new here, my name is Laura and I'm a mum to 3 boys, Jack aged 5, George who is nearly 2 and Freddie who is 4 months old. I do all sorts of videos, so please take a look and subscribe, it would mean the world to me. So Freddie's labour was probably the, should I say it, the best labour out of all 3? I think it was. Well, yeah, it definitely was. I didn't have like a set birth plan, but I definitely had more of an idea of how I wanted this birth to go. And one of the main things that I wanted was to be more in control. With Jack's labour, it was all very much, I was induced, so it was all very much led by the midwives in the hospital, plus I had group B strep, so I had to have antibiotics for that, so I was on a drip, and it was a really long labour, and it just felt very out of my hands and out of my control. With George's, it was in control to a certain point, but then when we arrived at hospital, I felt like it all happened so quickly that it then went out of my control and I panicked, and yeah, so that was the main thing I wanted, and that was to be in control. So I did lots of research and I decided that I would like to do hypnobirthing this time round, and I came across the company, the Positive Birthing Company. I'll link them down below. They're amazing. They sell ebooks online and they have YouTube videos, so I did tons and tons of research into that. I didn't know if it was going to work, I didn't know, I just wanted to try something else, something different, and see what happens. The only other thing that I wanted as well was a birthing pool. Again, it was something I wanted for Jack and for George. With Jack, it was just out of the question, I couldn't have. And with George, he just arrived too quickly. The pool wasn't even full up by the time I'd had him. It just all happened so quickly. So that was another thing that I wanted. Pain relief, again, like with the other 2 labours, it wasn't something that I was like, no, I don't want. I was just playing it by ear and seeing how the labour went, because each one is obviously so different and you just don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to go. The Saturday before my due date, the day before my due date, it was a Saturday the 15th of September, and I woke up. Now the end of my pregnancy I didn't enjoy, so a lot of mornings I was waking up feeling quite down in the dumps. Anyway, I woke up this Saturday and I just didn't feel 100%, and my pelvis, I was in a lot of pain with my pelvis. Like when I walked, it ached, it hurt, it was sore. I had been getting this a lot through this pregnancy, so I didn't really think of it as a sign, but at the same time I did. It's really hard to explain. Like with my other 2 births, the day before I went into labour, you just don't feel 100%. So I didn't want to think it was a sign that I was going into labour, but at the same time I did. And you know what it's like at the end of pregnancy, any little sign or anything, you're like, oh, I'm going into labour, is this it? Like you're always thinking, is this it? Anyway, so I told Tom, and Tom was meant to be going to work that day, but he took the day off. I think he must have had a feeling too. So that day I rested. I think it was quite hot. Was it a hot day? I'm sure it was, because Tom was in the garden. So I just kind of like had a day of rest. I was in so much pain anyway, I couldn't do too much or walk about too much. I can't really remember exactly what I did that day, but I know that I did rest. Yeah, and Tom kept saying, oh, are you going to go into labour? I kept saying, no, my due date is tomorrow. I'm not going to go into labour. I know that I'm going to go 2 weeks over. Only 3% of babies arrive on their due date. It's not going to happen. So that night I went to bed as usual. Again, I woke up for like a million wheezes in the night, and every time I woke up my pelvis pain was getting worse and worse. And I remember at one point I'd got up to go for a wee and I had to hold on to the walls to walk to get to the toilet because that's how painful it was. Went back to bed, Then at about 2 in the morning, I didn't wake up, I got woken up with a pop and my waters went. And I remember just saying, oh shit. I was like, Tom, I think my waters have just gone. He was like, oh crap. So he jumped up out of bed, and the first thing we did, like before we thought of anything, we were like, right, let's ring my parents, because they were meant to be having Jack and George. So we got up, rang my parents, they didn't answer. So we had to ring Tom's parents. They answered, and I can't believe how quickly they got to us, actually. They got to us really quickly to collect Jack and George. My hospital bags were only half packed, can I just say. Well, it wasn't my hospital bags. Mine and the babies were done, but the kids' bags, for them to stay away, weren't even packed. So we're like rushing around, packing all their bags, ready for them to go. I just really thought I was going to be 2 weeks late. I did not think that I would be going into labour anywhere near my due date. So yeah. A little word of advice, always pack, if you've got other kids, their bags ready to go as well, because yeah, it was mad. Yeah, so we were running around packing their bags ready to go. Tom's parents arrived and they went off. So we then, once they had gone, we rang the hospital, and they obviously advised us to stay at home until the contractions start, relax, rest, try and sleep, and see what happens. Obviously you're not allowed to go into hospital until, I think it's your contractions, I can't remember now. I think they have to be 2 to 3 minutes apart, each contraction, is that right? Lasting between 30 and 60 seconds, it's something like that. So yeah, we were basically at home waiting for contractions. So then I think it was about an hour after my waters went, it started getting quite painful, but I couldn't quite work out if it was a contraction or not. Like, it felt different to when I had contractions with George. It was like, with George you could feel the tightenings, whereas this time it was just pain. But looking back, I think it was the start of something. They were just very mild. So yeah, we were just waiting around. I tried to go back to bed, but obviously my adrenaline was going and I couldn't sleep. So I ended up just going downstairs and sitting in the living room. And then slowly but surely, my contractions got stronger and more regular and started getting closer together. I think then, it must have been about 2 to 3 hours later, Tom called the hospital again, and I think my contractions weren't quite where they should have been, but I wanted to get to hospital earlier this time round, because with George we like really pushed it to getting in hospital in time to when I had him, so I wanted to make sure I was there earlier this time. Anyway, the hospital said, yep, just come in and we'll examine her. So we went to hospital, we arrived, I was examined, and I remember them saying, I remember just being like trying to just, like, it's the hypnobirthing thing, just being in my own little world and just trying to focus on my contractions. And in the background I could just hear the midwife say, yeah, we're keeping her in, but she's coping really well. I was like, okay, that's good. They didn't have a room available with a birthing pool, so I was a bit disappointed about that. And we got chucked in like this little side room. It was like the tiniest little room. It was all they had available. The hospital was really busy. And the midwife was lovely, she was so nice, and she gave me the gas and air, and she almost just let us get on with it. I think because I was coping with it quite well. I was just in my own little world, and just trying to deal with each contraction as it came. I just remember being in that room now and just focusing on each contraction. That's all I was focusing on. And now to me it felt like we were in that room for ages, but we were only in there for an hour until Freddie arrived. And the midwife had wandered out the room and left me and Tom to it. Then all of a sudden I said to Tom, I need to push. So Tom like went running out the room and was like, she needs to push to the midwife. She came running down the corridor and was like, okay, it's fine. She was like, go on then, just push. So I did, and she almost just left me to do it. I think because she obviously knew it's my third baby and I seemed quite in control, that I just did it myself basically, and I was very calm about it, and it happened really quickly. And that was it. It was such a simple, basic labour and birth, and I couldn't have asked for it to go any better really. It was amazing. It was the best labour I have had. I did have to have a couple of small stitches. I find them the worst part. Out of all the labour, I find that the worst bit, the stitches. So I had them. I had to have the most gas and air for them out of anything else. Yeah, and Freddie weighed £8 exactly. And yeah, it went really well. We were also discharged. Obviously they have to do all the checks and stuff on me and the baby, but we were then discharged. He was born at, I can't even remember the time, but it was early in the morning. It was like a 4.5 hour labour, so it happened quickly, and then we were discharged that evening. So yeah, he arrived exactly on his due date, 16th of September. Yeah, so it was like the quickest, easiest birth. We didn't even have to stay in hospital overnight, which I was so pleased about. One thing I would definitely suggest if you are pregnant or due to give birth soon is to look into hypnobirthing, because it's something that I do believe really helped me get through the labour. We are 4 months on now and Freddie is doing really well. We've had a few ups and downs with the feeding. I might even do a little baby update as well. So I hope you enjoyed my labour story, and I will see you all soon. Bye.